Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and today is the final day of the Black Ops 4 multiplayer beta. Weekend 1 is set to end in just under 24 hours time, and it won't be back until next weekend, so right now, pretty much everybody is cramming in as much playtime as they possibly can, and Treyarch is working to gather as much data and as much feedback as they possibly can. The focus of this video is going to be everything that Treyarch plans to change about the game going into Weekend 2, as well as recapping all the changes that they've already made here in Weekend 1. And I know it may seem like they haven't made a ton of changes here in Weekend 1, but they really have. They made a ton of changes over the course of the past couple of days based on community feedback, and they have even bigger changes planned going into Weekend 2 of the beta. One of those changes is going to be a nerf to what they call bunny jumping. I discussed this in my review of the game, but the jump height here in Black Ops 4 is absolutely absurd. At times, it feels like players still have thrust jump available, but they can't double jump, if that makes any sense, and that's why Treyarch is going to be lowering the jump height going into Weekend 2. Now, I know some of you guys may think that jumping isn't that big of a deal here in Black Ops 4, but before you come to a conclusion, check out this clip that I was able to record yesterday. As you guys can see, my lobby ended up disconnecting, but I was able to run around for a few moments before it threw me out of the game, and here we see my teammate Ruin nearly 6 feet in the air. If he were slightly higher up, I would be able to walk completely underneath him because his boots are at my character's forehead, which is absurd for a boots on the ground Call of Duty game. So,
can you thrust jump?
I'm not saying that jumping needs to be nerfed entirely into the ground, but I think we can all agree this is kind of absurd for a boots on the ground Call of Duty game, and I'm definitely glad that they're going to be fixing it going into Weekend 2. And another thing they're going to be changing is going to be the body armor mechanic that pretty much everybody has been complaining about. So a quick recap for those who don't know, body armor is a piece of gear here in Black Ops 4 that allows you to take one extra shot of damage. To a lot of fans out there, this is pretty much the equivalent of the Juggernaut perk from previous Call of Duty games, and the only counter that we have here in Black Ops 4 is something called AP rounds, or armor-piercing rounds, which is an attachment that can only be found on select weapons. The reason why people hate this piece of gear so much is because of how frustrating it is to lose a gunfight to somebody who essentially has more health than you. In the gameplay you guys are watching, I'm using body armor, and even though technically I only take one extra shot of damage in each of these gunfights, it seems like I'm taking 2 or 3 extra shots of damage and living much longer than I probably should, and that's because of the slow time to kill that we find here in Black Ops 4. Like, one extra shot of damage in COD 4, Modern Warfare 2, or Modern Warfare 3 really isn't that big of a deal, but here in Black Ops 4, where the time to kill is very slow, one extra bullet can mean all the difference, and that's why so many people find this piece of gear to be so frustrating. I think the biggest problem lies with the fact that there really isn't a proper counter, because as somebody who played a lot of Call of Duty 4, a lot of World at War, and a lot of Modern Warfare Remastered, I never minded the Juggernaut perk as much as other people because it was completely countered by stopping power, right? And therefore, I just ran stopping power on the majority of my weapons because it was good against Jug, and it was insanely good against people who were not using Jug. But here in Black Ops 4, we don't have that same system, even though it kind of seems like they're trying to go for that, because like I said, the only counter to body armor would be those armor-piercing rounds, which are only available on certain weapons, and if you encounter an enemy who is not using body armor, your armor-piercing rounds don't do anything at that point. They're completely useless. They don't buff up your damage unless they're actually using body armor, and therefore it feels like you're wasting an attachment, right? You're basically forced to use this attachment, which is only going to be useful some of the time. It seems like a really bad system, at least in my opinion, and Treyarch is planning to change it in one way or another. They did confirm via Reddit today that they are going to be making some changes to body armor, though unfortunately they didn't really give us much in the way of details, so we don't know exactly how they plan to change it, but rest assured, the changes will be part of the Weekend 2 beta, and I cannot wait to learn more. I would love to hear what you guys think about body armor down there in the comment section below. Do you think it's a balanced part of the game? Do you like having it in Black Ops 4? What do you think they should do to change it? Do you think they should remove it? Leave all your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section below. And one final thing that they plan to change going into Weekend 2 is going to be the power of the score streaks. I was very happy when I heard that they're going to be buffing up the score streaks here in this game, because I was thinking about doing an entire video dedicated to this. I have been testing all these score streaks in this game thoroughly throughout the entirety of the beta, and every one of them is way more expensive than it should be if you're not running the comp bombsec device, and they're all incredibly underpowered compared to what we saw back in Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 3. And that's not even just my opinion, that's pretty much the universal opinion of the entire community. The score streaks in this game are really expensive and really weak for what they are. Take the attack helicopter, for example. This thing cost you 1,150 score, which is more than the Black Ops 3 Wraith, it's more than the Black Ops 3 Cerberus, and the Black Ops 2 Stealth Chopper, and when compared to those three streaks, it's also weaker, so you're working harder to get less here in Black Ops 4, though obviously things are going to be a little bit different because score is awarded differently here in this game as compared to previous games, but even then, the attack helicopter is one of the bigger streaks in this game, and it's good for maybe 2 kills on a good day. I was going through a lot of my footage, and I don't believe I have found a single gameplay where I called in an attack helicopter that got more than 2 kills, right? So it's pretty underpowered, and so are the rest of the streaks here in this game. The strike team does have the potential to be strong, but it requires a lot of micromanagement, and it seems like if you die, they die as well, because they just kind of stand there doing nothing while you're dead, taking bullets from the opposing team. The sentry is probably the worst sentry that we've ever seen in the Call of Duty franchise. It takes a while to lock on, and for some reason, you can only place it on super flat surfaces, which is really frustrating. Like, every time I call out this thing, it seems like I spend 2 or 3 seconds completely unarmed trying to find a spot to actually place it. It really seems like the sentry is way more hassle than it's worth, and unfortunately, it seems like the only good, consistent streaks in the entire game would be the Hellstorm and the Lightning Strike, which are 2 of the lowest streaks in the entire game, and they're only good because they blow up an entire section of the map. So that's why I'm very happy to let you guys know that Treyarch has confirmed that they are going to be buffing up these score streaks going into weekend 2 of the beta, and fingers crossed they actually buff them substantially, right? We talk about this all the time here on the channel, but it seems like every year they're making score streaks cost more and more while also being weaker and weaker, which is the opposite of what they should be doing. If anything, they should be working to recapture the magic that we found back in Modern Warfare 2 and the original Black Ops and Modern Warfare 3 and Black Ops 2, because for those who don't know, those were the best-selling Call of Duty games of all time, and they also just happen to be the Call of Duty games that had the biggest, most powerful streaks, right? And I don't think it's a coincidence. I think people just like big, powerful streaks in their Call of Duty games, so hopefully Treyarch gets that sorted for weekend 2 of the beta. I would love for Black Ops 4 to be the return of score streaks here in the Call of Duty franchise, where you actually feel rewarded for going on those big streaks. But ladies and gentlemen, those are all the changes so far that Treyarch plans to make to the game going into weekend 2 of the beta. They're going to be nerfing jumping, they're looking into potentially nerfing sliding, they're going to adjust the body armor in one way or another, and they're also going to be making it so score streaks are buffed up and better than they were here in weekend 1. But on top of all of that, they've already made several changes to the game, and I want to recap all those for you guys really quickly. So for starters, during this weekend's beta, they nerfed every single submachine gun with the exception of the GKS, which is a change that I'm very happy to see. When they initially gave us the beta, the MX-9 was really powerful, and it was very powerful on purpose because they wanted to give us a submachine gun that was great right out the gate, but they overdid it, and so as a result, the MX-9 received a nerf to its close range damage and its long range damage, and on top of that, they nerfed the damage range of the Spitfire, the Cordite, as well as the SOG 9mm. The only submachine gun that was not nerfed this weekend would be the GKS, and in fact, they buffed up the GKS by reducing its recoil so they will be better off at those medium to long ranges, because this gun is supposed to be the long range submachine gun of Black Ops 4. I remember when I first unlocked it, I thought to myself, this gun is bad at everything. Like, it got melted up close by other SMGs, it was okay at medium to long ranges, but it was still outperformed by rifles and light machine guns, and in some cases, other submachine guns, so it seemed like it was bad at everything, but it turns out the reason why it felt that way was because the other submachine guns were a little bit overtuned when it came to their damage at range. And I also think another contributing factor would be the size of the maps that we find here in the beta. Because of how tight all these maps are, it seems like submachine guns are always within their effective range, and rifles just don't really have their own niche, or light machine guns don't really have their own niche. But after all these balance changes, it really does seem like rifles are better than they were before, it seems like the light machine guns are better than they were before, and it also seems like the submachine guns are still good and still viable, but they're good at doing submachine gun things without completely dominating the entire game in every aspect. So I think that's actually a very good balance change on the part of Treyarch. I'm also very happy to say that they did this in only 2 days time, because we had this exact same issue last year with the Call of Duty World War II beta, and Sledgehammer Games really dragged their feet about nerfing SMGs. We had 2 straight weekends of super OP SMGs, and then when the game finally came out, they then decided to nerf them down quite a bit, and even then they were still a bit too powerful. Here with Black Ops 4, Treyarch was right on it. It took them 2 days time, they nerfed down every single submachine gun, and I really feel as though the game is much better as a result. Speaking of nerfs, Treyarch also decided to nerf the headshot damage, the hipfire accuracy, accuracy and the ammo count on the ABR-223 tactical rifle. This gun is basically the go-to 3-round burst rifle so far here in the beta, and even after the nerf, it still seems like it's a pretty good gun all around. Like, it was a pretty minor nerf they gave it, but they want to make sure it doesn't go above the point of balance, because once a burst rifle gets unbalanced, you guys know things can get wildly out of control. We saw the M16 back in Call of Duty 4, we saw the M8A7, of course, back in Black Ops 3. When a burst rifle is really good, it can quickly become one of the best weapons in the entire game, so they're trying to make sure the ABR does not get too out of line here in the beta, though I have to say, it's still very good, and it's still one of the most popular guns here in Black Ops 4. But aside from that, they also decided to buff up the Auger DMR rifle by giving it less idle sway, and they also decided to slightly increase the damage on the MOG 12 shotgun. On top of that, they also made a couple of changes to specialists as well as pieces of equipment, and specifically, they took my favorite specialist, which I can't believe I'm saying this, but my favorite specialist, Torque, and they took his barricade and they narrowed its microwave area so it doesn't melt pretty much every blade, because as you guys can see, that microwave effect can actually be very powerful. They also decided to make it so Ajax moves faster with his ballistic shield than he did previously, and they also increased the area of effect of Ajax's 9-bang, which is really, really annoying if you get hit by it. Like, this is what happens when you get hit by a 9-bang, though honestly, I feel as though it's still balanced within the game, because they want him to have basically a really good stun/flash grenade, right? In the same way that Battery has a really powerful cluster grenade, they want him to be like the stun guy, essentially. So if they want his specialist to be able to do that, it has to be better than an average stun grenade or a flash grenade, but that does not make it any less annoying when you actually get hit by it. And they also decided to go ahead and reduce the cooldown time on the combat axe, so melee-only players can have access to that piece of equipment a little bit more often. They've also made a couple of other little tiny changes here and there. They are still working on the domination spawns, and they are still working to fix the absurdly long pre-game lobby timers, though I imagine those big changes are going to be taking effect next weekend. Alongside this, which actually just came out while I was recording this, they did reveal that they are going to be nerfing Nomad's dog, which thank freaking goodness, that dog was absurd here in weekend 1, and I'm very happy it's going to be nerfed going into weekend 2. But ladies and gentlemen, that is pretty much all for this video. That is everything so far that Treyarch has already changed about Black Ops 4 and what they will be changing about Black Ops 4, and I'd love to hear all of your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section below. What do you think of Black Ops 4 as a game as a whole? Because I must say, my opinion is getting better the more I play it. I have been super critical of Black Ops 4 so far, but the more I play it and the more Treyarch changes it, the more I think I'm going to enjoy this game, though at the same time, I really can't help but shake that feeling that this is not going to be a normal Call of Duty experience. Like, if you're used to traditional Call of Duty games, this may not be the game for you, which is definitely concerning, but at the same time, it's also very encouraging to see Treyarch working so closely with the community and making so many changes so quickly based off of our feedback. So it's going to be a very interesting year for the Call of Duty franchise. If you would like to see my full review and my full thoughts on weekend 1, I'll put a link to my review down there in the description. I did that video a couple of days ago, and I still stand by every single statement I put in there. Black Ops 4 is a very interesting game, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section below. Thank you all so much for listening, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.